Hi, I'm Kevin VanDeWege, State Representative from the 24th Legislative District, the Olympic Peninsula.
The State House passed the Jobs Act of 2010 recently.
Right.
What would this bill do?
This bill would create roughly 38,000 jobs in Washington State in the construction industry by working to make our schools and some other government buildings more energy efficient. It would put people to work, roofers, carpenters to work. I think jobs are what's going to get us out of this recession. So it is a smart piece of legislation. It's going to work to make a lot of schools more energy efficient in the 24th Legislative District too. In total, saving about $100 million in energy costs. It will do things like the elementary school in Quilcene has 84 single pane windows in each classroom. A lot of energy goes out those single pane windows. This type of legislation would create the jobs that would put double pane windows, energy efficient windows in a school like that. Hoquiam, their high school, every time there's a windstorm, pieces of the school, pieces of the roof blow off, and they're constantly having to replace that. Helen Hall Elementary in Sequim, where my two children go to school, has a heating system that's obsolete to the point where they have to steal parts from the heating system just to keep it running all the time. So those are some examples of just schools in our legislative district that would benefit from the Jobs Act, which is a good piece of legislation, and it's moving forward. And again, it creates 38,000 jobs, and jobs really are what's going to get us out of this recession. So that's kind of the momentum and the goal behind the state working on this legislation.
So what's the next step for the bill?
The next step for the bill, so we've heard it in the House and it passed off the House floor. It's now over in the Senate, and the Senate will pass it. All of these jobs and the money for this construction is created through $850 million in bonds that the state will sell. And that's really the instigator behind the job creation and the money to do this important work in our schools. And so because of that, since it's a bond measure, it will actually go before the voters in the November election. So it's already passed off the House floor. If it gets out of the Senate, the next step it'll have is in front of the voters in the general election in November. And if it passes there, then the program will actually be put in place and the jobs are created and the energy saved, 38,000 jobs from $850 million in bonds and $190 million in energy savings a year.
What other things have you been working on in the last week?
Two things. I passed a bill on my own off the House floor. I worked on this some last year and working on it again this year. It's the naming the highway and 110 out between Forks and La Push in honor of Persian Gulf veterans. We have a great involved veterans community on the Olympic Peninsula, and they have these ideas that they vet internally and locally to honor veterans through named highways. Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans already have highways. This does the Persian Gulf veterans of the early 90s a highway in their honor, and so was very proud to work on that, and it passed off the House floor earlier this week. Another piece of legislation I'm working really hard on is streamlining environmental and growth hearing boards. There's a lot of complaints locally in the district that I hear about them, and so we have a piece of legislation that really pares them down, cuts out any excess they have, and streamlines them and eliminates two of the growth management hearing boards, and then consolidates some of the environmental hearing boards. So working on that, and that's moving forward also.
Trick question. What's next on your schedule?
That's a good question. Right now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday, and I will probably be here till 7 or 8 today. I think I'm meeting with some construction folks next back at the office across the way, and then there will be more meetings after that. This time of session, there's a lot of constituents coming down, which is great to see. Already this morning, I visited with people from Port Angeles and Sequim, and some people from Grace Harbor. So a lot of constituents coming down and having a chance to interact and see how we work here in Olympia. But generally, this part of session is there's 10 to 15-minute appointments, one after the other. So we'll do those for a few more hours yet today.
Great, thanks.
Good, thank you.